say welcome and good evening to our town board meeting of the town of Ossining, our legislative session for Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you see my flag? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start off with our roll call.
Okay, Councilmember Feldman?
Present.
Councilmember Shaw?
Present.
Councilmember Meyer?
Present.
Councilmember Wiltshire?
Present.
Supervisor Levenberg?
Here I am. Thank you. And this evening we are starting off with two public hearings. The first one is to review local law to amend Chapter 200 of the Town Code zoning to create beekeeping regulations in the town of Ossining. At our last legislative session, we opened a public hearing on proposed legislation to create beekeeping regulations in the town of Ossining. At that hearing, we received some good comments and feedback from the public, some of which we've incorporated into our latest draft of the local law. We discussed the draft at work session, and the board's comments were also incorporated. The latest version of the law has been circulated. However, we're still awaiting some comments from our building inspector. So in addition to hearing public feedback this evening, we anticipate getting additional feedback from our building inspector. Is there anyone here to address the board on this matter? Or is before we open up to the public, I just want to double check if our council Adana has anything that she wants to say before opening it to the public.
No, you pretty much summed it up. There was some discussion at the work session last week about having a resolution for the board's consideration. Since then, we've had some subsequent conversations with the building inspector, who is going to be charged with administering and enforcing this permit. And we just want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row as far as what he is going to need in language that would be most appropriate in order for him to be able to do so. And given that there is not really a sense of urgency, the recommendation was to hold it over a little bit while longer just to make sure we make those last tweaks and get it right the first time around.
All right, sounds good. And so I will open it up to public comment, and I see that Donna Sharrett from our planning board has her hands raised. So Donna, would you like to take your 3-4 minutes or so and make whatever comments you have?
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak up for the native pollinators. I, just wanted to reiterate that the honeybee was brought here by the Europeans. It's not native here. And our native pollinators got a double whammy because the Europeans came and got rid of a lot of the plants and then brought this bee in to compete with the food. So it's a little been challenging for the native species. But I do think that the law that you've worked very hard on is balancing the desire for this beloved hobby of raising honeybees so people can have honey, while offering some protections and considerations for the native species. So I'm very appreciative of that. I do have only one comment because I think you've made really good changes, and I think everything looks pretty good, but I am concerned that the maximum amount of hives was raised to 6 in this draft. And it's at the work session, I believe it was the work session or the last public hearing, that our town assessor / beekeeper said that the hives usually have about 60,000 bees per hive. So 6 hives would be a lot of bees. And I just think in a residential area, I think it's too much. And I think 4 would still be a lot of bees, but I think it's definitely better than 6. So I just ask if you would consider lowering it back to, I believe the last draft had 4, or if not, I would ask if you would take it back to 4. So I think that would be reasonable in this highly suburban area. So thank you so much for your work on it, and that's it for me.
Thank you. And I do believe that that's only for very large properties is where you could have 6 hives. It's based on acreage.
Yes, but if I may just add, Bethany is one of those large properties, and it's a narrow property, so those beehives are not going to be too far from the residential areas, and that property, I believe, would be allowed to have 6 hives, and I think it's too much.
Right. So the setbacks for larger piece property are also larger, and I think that was increased also.
It's still a lot of bees. It's like 360,000 bees. That's a lot of bees. So
sounds like a big number, but they're bees. So I don't really have a sense of, what that is actually like personally. I know that obviously bigger properties could potentially have a lot more room on them and theoretically could have a lot more plants that could be food. And I think the food is required on the properties themselves. And there are additional protections that we built in to make sure that they aren't creating nuisance on other people's property, including clarifying some of that language I think that you had asked about last time. So
yes, that was great.
Okay, so thank you for that input, and we will take it under advisement. Is there anybody else here to address the board on our draft beekeeping legislation?
If you're on a phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand.
Thank you for reminding me, and everybody. Is there anybody who is pressing *9 that we can't see? Okay, and I'm hearing none. So I think that I would ask for a motion to, what am I asking for a motion to keep open the public?
Adjourn the public hearing to be continued at your October 27th meeting, which is when Hamilton, the building inspector, is going to come and speak with the board about this.
So I'd like to adjourn the public hearing, ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing until October 27th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you so much. So next up on our agenda, we have another public hearing for the extension of approval of provisional 2020 cabaret license for Maya Riviera Bar and Restaurant, 518 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor. This has been lingering for some time now. As you may remember, at the beginning of 2020, Maya Riviera submitted their request for a cabaret license with an expansion of their normal operating hours. The board provisionally approved the license at the beginning of March, hoping that the 90-day period of the provisional license would give the board an opportunity to review the impacts of these expanded hours, make sure that they weren't crazy and nobody was having any problems with them. I know that we're all trying to forget those early days of March, but soon after the board's approval, Maya Riviera, along with other businesses, was forced to close due to COVID. The board has been approving additional extensions all year as we keep hoping we might return to some normalcy sooner rather than later. Alas, we have not. So tonight we are holding the public hearing to just wrap this up for the rest of 2020 and approve the license through the end of the year. We can revisit with their 2021 request when they will have to apply again for another cabaret license, and we will hopefully finally be back to some sort of normalcy at some point in the not too distant future. Councilor Donna, do you have anything you want to add before I open it up to the public for comment?
No, this is, the board did this a couple of years ago with this applicant with respect to the hours for amplified music on Fridays and Saturdays. This year, the applicant requested it on Sundays through Thursdays, which the board is authorized to do under the code if it makes certain findings. And that's part of the reason why the board does it provisionally as it did with the Friday and Saturday hours, in order to ensure that there are no impacts. But this applicant has not really had any issues in the past, so the board found it appropriate. The resolution was passed on March 10th, as the supervisor mentioned, very shortly before all the restrictions went into place. So there wasn't really any feedback to receive based upon their operations because of the circumstances. So the resolution that the board will be considering later this evening specifically provides that the board is not bound by this determination and that it's made based upon the circumstances as they exist now, and that the board can revisit this and look at the circumstances that as they may exist in the future in deciding whether or not to continue with these expanded hours.
Thank you. So with that, I would like to ask if there's anybody here who has come to address the board on the public hearing for the extension of the cabaret license for Maya Riviera. If so, please raise your hand and you can press *9. Is that what we decided? If you're on a phone, and that will raise your virtual hand and then we can call on you. Going once, going twice. Victoria Caparelli, do you see anybody that I don't see? No. Okay, seeing nobody. Gone. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, wonderful. So as mentioned, we will be addressing that a little bit later on this evening. So next up, we have Westchester Power Program update from Sustainable Westchester. We have Carmen Santos here, and she is with Westchester Power, which is one of the many programs that Sustainable Westchester offers to member communities. And we are excited for her to share some good news with us about the auction for the new rate for the Community Choice Aggregation Program. Carmen, tell us what good news you have.
Thank you. Hello, good evening, Supervisor and everyone here. So just going to share my presentation first. Okay. So as everyone knows now, my name is Carmen Santos and I work for Sustainable Westchester and I support the Westchester Power Program. And I'm here to give you some updates on the program. So for the viewing audience, Westchester Power is our county community energy program established in 2016. We work with municipalities to aggregate residents and small businesses to buy clean energy at competitive fixed rates. And in doing so, we make a positive impact on the environment. And so we're helping build healthy, resilient communities by accessing affordable, clean, renewable power and helping address climate change and securing a better future for our children. The program also helps us improve air quality because it mitigates carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. And it also helps us boost the green economy and generate more green jobs. So 27 municipalities participate in the program. 24 of them have chosen green supply or 100% renewable energy. And we are very happy to say that the town of Ossining has chosen green supply. And we also have another standard supply, which is a mix of fossil fuels and renewable energy. And residents can switch between supply options at any point. So how does it work? Basically, Westchester Power is going to buy your electricity, and Con Ed is going to continue to deliver your energy, maintain the lines, and bill you. And you really don't have to do anything. You just end up having more energy choice. And in your participation, or through your participation, you're supporting clean energy. So we had a bid auction for the 2021 contract. And it was very exciting because it was in real time and we had 4 suppliers. The municipality leaders were able to watch them put in their bids. And so it went for longer than, we had many different scenarios and some went from 15 to 30 minutes or so. And so Constellation ended up giving us one of the best offers. And for residential standard supply, we were able to secure a 6.749 cents for 18 months. And for the residential green supply, we were able to secure a 7.405 cents for 18 months. And it was very exciting because the commercial supplies came in lower. And so for the standard supply, we got 6.445 cents for 18 months. And for the commercial green supply, it is going to now be 7.100 cents for 18 months. And all of these rates are lower than what we currently pay for green supply, which is 7.96 cents. So it was a really good bid process for us. So things to look out for. You're going to receive a notification letter around November 4th. It's going to give you all this information about the rates, as well as Constellation being your supplier. It's also going to give you information on how to opt out of the program if you choose not to participate. But if you choose to stay, you basically be enrolled on the first meter read date starting January 1st. We also want you to make sure you look at the letter in that it has a municipality seal on it. We know that there's a lot of confusing material out there, or at least that there are other energy companies trying to supply you energy. Just note that the letter and the envelope would both have the municipality seal on it. So again, you're able to opt out of the program or switch between supply options at any time. During this 30-day opt-out period, all you have to do is sign and send back the prepaid postcard that it comes along with the letter, or you can call us and we'll help you either come out of the program or switch between the supply options. And you could also do this on your own by going to www.sustainablewestchester.org/WP. And we just want to say that we are really thankful for your participation in this program, because it's helping us accelerate a transition to clean energy. And we really want everyone to be aware of this program. So if you're part of a community group, a church group, and you want us to tell you more about this program and what it does and how we're helping make an environmental progress that will help us have a better sustainable future, then please contact us at info@sustainablewestchester.org, and we'd be happy to set that up. And now I'd like to open the floor for any questions or comments you may have.
So I just want to say thank you so much, Carmen, for that great explanation. And as I've said, the more that we can get together on demanding clean energy and building demand for clean energy, the sooner that we can get off of not clean energy, dirty energy, fossil fuels, etc. So by working together as Westchester Power has offered for all of the participating municipalities, we really can drive demand, and that's really exciting. One of the things you talked a lot about, Carmen, was opting out. But I know that over the course of time, many have opted out, and now that we have better rates, maybe they would like to opt in. So if they opted out and they're not on the list anymore, how do they opt in?
Basically, you have to call us. So we don't send another letter for them to be re-enrolled, but you basically just call us at our phone number, which is on my slide. Let me just read it to you. It's 914-242-4725. And just say that you're interested in joining the program, and we'd be happy to opt you back in.
And that's great. And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention is this doesn't preclude you from being able to also participate in community solar projects or programs. You can still opt into community solar and still receive a 10% discount, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And you'd actually be having a double environmental impact, because you're promoting the construction of renewable energy near our communities, as well as promoting renewable energy somewhere in New York State that is supplying us energy. So really, it would be amazing if you could do both. And community solar is a guaranteed savings program that gives you up to 10% savings on your bill. So it is almost like you should just take advantage of it.
That's great. And then finally, I was just going to say, there's one more thing about the community. Oh, you mentioned New York State. So the power is all generated in New York State. Is that true?
Yes. So for the Westchester Power Program, we work with renewable energy credits. So that is for every energy unit we use, somewhere in New York State, renewable energy needs to be placed into this overall grid that we all use. So in that sense, yes, it is being generated in New York State.
Excellent. Okay, so I'd just like to open it up to the board for any other questions. All right, well, fantastic. A little bit later on in our agenda, we're going to have an opportunity to authorize me to sign the electric service agreement electronically with Constellation, which was the winning bidder. And we look forward to another great round of Westchester Power with even better rates locked in for another 1.5 years. So Carmen, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I was going to say coming out tonight, but maybe you're staying in on Zoom. So just appreciate you taking the time tonight to talk to us a little bit about the auction process and about Westchester Power. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
You too.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so up to announcements. And today is the last day to register as an organ donor as part of Team Ossining. On Thursday last week, we hosted a Zoomathon with nearly 30 participants. Typically, we celebrate Organ Donor Enrollment Day with outdoor events to help people register, but we had to get creative this year. Thank you so much to all of the elected officials, musicians, and donors and transplant recipients that came together to raise awareness. We reached over 6,000 people with the live stream Zoomathon, and hopefully a lot of people registered to be donors. Most New Yorkers support organ donation, but only 32% are actually enrolled. If you're interested in becoming an organ donor, visit the Town of Ossining Facebook page or https://donatelife.ny.gov/ref, as in referee, REF, /liveonny, DD, as in Dana, 139 /. Sign up today and give the gift of life. What are you waiting for? You don't have to give it today. You just have to sign up today. Coming right off of all that good work we did on Organ Donor Enrollment Day on Thursday, I woke up to a much different feeling on Friday morning when I went out for a run. Right in front of my home, clearly in response to the Black Lives Matter sign that I have posted, someone had chalked a nasty message with a racial slur that rocked my entire day, week, etc. We quickly pulled so many of Ossining's leaders together for a press conference, including from the village, town, school district, and police department, county, and state, our community equity task force, and our faith-based community, as well as my husband and my 2 grown sons. We all find this type of behavior and hateful messaging atrocious. And every one of us is committed to countering it and working even harder to root out racism in our midst. I want to just say I felt so supported and inspired by all of the people who gathered with very little notice at my home on Friday afternoon. And I send everybody a big thank you for joining me to show that Ossining will not stand for hate. I also thank the town board for individually speaking out as well on Friday. The police, Ossining police, are continuing to investigate this matter. If you have any information about anything you may have seen in the area of M. Wilton Place on Friday morning, October 9th at around 6:15 a.m., please call the Ossining Police Department at 941-4099 and ask to speak to a detective. We're coming up on some important deadlines. The start of early voting is just 11 days away, and absentee ballots have already been received in some homes. Have you made your voting plan? Take a few minutes to think about how you will be voting this year. Do you need to find a way to get to your polling site? We can help you with that. You can call the clerk's office and we will direct you and make sure that you can get a ride to the polls. Do you know where your voting site will be? It may have changed this year. Do you have questions about early voting? New York voters have several options for this upcoming election. You can cast your vote by absentee ballot, vote in person on election day, or vote in person during the early voting period starting October 24th. Visit the Board of Elections website at citizenparticipation.westchestergov.com for all information on this upcoming election. All voters in Westchester County can go to any of the 17 early voting sites across the county from October 24th through November 1st. But on Election Day, November 3rd, you must vote at your assigned polling place. Please note your polling place may have changed this year, so check the Board of Elections website to confirm your correct polling place, or keep an eye out for a postcard in the mail with your information. I'd also like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that the presidential candidates are not the only candidates on your ballot this year. There are positions on the state Supreme Court, in the state Senate, for district attorney, local judge, as well as Village of Austin trustees, among others, and they all deserve your attention. You can visit vote411.org/ballot to learn whose names will be on your ballot. Breaking news. I was going to talk about how we have until the 31st of October to continue to respond to the census, but as of this evening, we learned that the Supreme Court ruled differently and upheld the president's request to, or demand, I guess we should say, to put an end to the census earlier. So we are not exactly sure what that's going to mean and when exactly they're going to shut down the census. I don't know. I know Victoria Caffarelli was watching the blow-by-blow of this. I don't know if it was on CNN or MSNBC, but I don't know if you learned anything since last we spoke. I did see that there was an announcement from County Planning Department. So I think we're still waiting for a little information. It's possible that you can still respond, but we're not exactly sure what is going to count. As of today, I believe we are at a 69.9% response rate, which matches in the unincorporated town of Austin, and that matches our 2010 response rate, which we're happy about. Of course, we wanted to exceed that. So we still encourage anybody who has not responded to the census yet to self-report and go to, I think it's what, mycensus2020.org.gov. I don't remember exactly what, but it's easy to find if you just search for census, US Census on your computer, and you can respond online.
It's 2020census.gov.
2020census.gov. So you can still try that, but we just don't know if you're going to be counted. If you haven't already, no harm in trying. I encourage you to do so because we lose $2,500 a year per resident for anybody who does not respond. And that's on average. It could actually be more than that. That's what it was based on the 2020 figures. As a quick update about town services, leaf collection will be starting up soon. So be sure to rake all your leaves to the curb, not in the street. Leaves can be left loose at the curb or in paper bags for pickup. Please do not bag your leaves in plastic, except if you happen to live on routes 133 or 134, because the state picks those up and they haven't seemingly caught up to their own laws yet, and they're still required that you put them in plastic. Leaf collection will continue through the end of the year by our amazing highway department. Please make every effort to keep the leaves out of the road because, as you know, that they can get very slick when they get wet, and this can lower the time it takes for your car to slow down or stop when it needs to. We're happy to offer leaf collection services to our residents, but please be mindful of where the piles end up. Lastly, I would like to ask everyone to remain vigilant when it comes to health guidelines. As the chilly weather drives us indoors, it is important to keep washing our hands, wearing our masks, and avoiding touching our faces. I know the news is full of discussion about an eventual vaccine, but we don't have one yet. That means that we need to keep working every day to protect one another. If you are considering traveling out of state, please review the New York State Travel Advisory. And even if you're actually in state, I think that there's now these cluster areas, cluster zones that the governor has identified with different colors, orange, yellow, and red. So really think about where you're going. And if your business reopening plan was drafted with warmer weather in mind, please do another review of your procedures. We have seen an uptick in cases across the state. New York is now offering a COVID Alert NY app, which uses Bluetooth technology to alert users if they have been in close proximity to a positive case. The app is voluntary, anonymous, and does not use location services, GPS, or geographical information. So I guess it must use magic because I don't know how else to figure this out. But somehow or another, it does. You can learn more about the app at coronavirus.health.ny.gov/COVID-alert-NY. I think it's probably just also on the New York Forward website. So if you Google New York Forward, I'm sure you can find it pretty easy. It's probably right at the top. Do any of my board colleagues have any other announcements? Seeing none, I will ask if there are any liaison reports. Yes, no, maybe? Am I looking for any? Head shaking in the right direction? Okay, no. Okay. In that case, we will go to public comment on agenda items only. Is there anybody here to address the board on any of the items on our agenda for this evening? And seeing none, we can go right into our board resolutions. And Martha Kudisaka. Want to take us through those resolutions, Martha?
Yes. Give me 1 second. My computer froze.
Of course, because
Okay.
that's how things happen. I understand. It happens to me all the time. Thank you.
Okay. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, September 22nd, 2020. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the December 22, 2020 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Thank you.
Approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated October 13th, 2020 in the amount of $435,911.41.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Just Christy for the tax or Sherry's meant to read the entire thing or just certain parts of it?
I emailed you a revised agenda. I don't know.
1 second.
So we have 3 tax certiorari resolutions coming up, and they tend to be very lengthy. So our counsel, Tom Adana, has gone through them to make sure that the relevant points are read into the minutes, and the rest of the full and complete agenda is available in the clerk's office and online on our website following this meeting as part of our accepted minutes and etc. And before the meeting
And as part of the agenda, yeah.
as part of the agenda, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Tax certiorari David Soap / estate of David A. Soap versus Town of Austin. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by David Soap / estates of David A. Soap against the Town of Austin, New York, to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at Scarborough Station Road, Village of Radcliffe Manor, in the Town of Austin, New York, 10562, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Austin as Section 104.07-1-43 for tax assessment years 2016 to 2018. Whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise and settlement of such proceedings subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessment value of its real property and improvements.
I think there's one more resolved.
Would be resolved.
Resolved that settlement of the proceedings on the terms set forth herein is hereby accepted and approved subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, wherein such proceedings are pending.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. And all the details again are available on the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So
moved.
moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
Tax certiorari 97th North Water LLC versus Town of Austin. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by 97 North Water LLC against the Town of Austin, New York, to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at 97 Water Street, Village of Austin, New York, in the Town of Austin, New York, 10562, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Austin at Section 89.14-1-13 for tax assessment year 2015. Whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise and settlement of such proceedings subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property and improvement as follows. Resolved that the settlement of the proceedings on the terms set forth herein is hereby accepted and approved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, wherein such proceedings are pending.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Okay. Tax Certiorari Parkview Apartments Corporation versus Town of Austin. Whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by Parkview Apartments Corporation against the Town of Austin, New York, to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at 117-121 South Highland Avenue, Village of Austin, in the Town of Austin, New York, 10562, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Austin as Section 97.11, Block 2, Lot 82 for 117-121 South Highland Avenue, and designated on the tax assessment map of the Town of Austin as Section 97.10, Block 1, Lot 7 for Holbrook Road, Village of Austin, in the Town of Austin, New York, 10562 for tax assessment years 2015 to 2017. Whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise and settlement of such proceedings, subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property and improvements. Resolved that settlement of the proceedings on the terms set forth herein is hereby accepted and approved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, wherein such proceedings are pending.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So I just want to say that thank you to our assessor, Fernando Gonzalez, and our prosecutor, Steve Dewey, for working hard to achieve a fair outcome in these proceedings for both the town and the petitioners. And thankfully, as a result of our annual reassessments, we are seeing fewer and fewer of these applications year after year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Resignation, Town of Austin Justice Court. Resolved that the town board of the Town of Austin accepts with regret the resignation of Suresh Nair from the position of intermediate clerk in the Town of Austin Justice Court, effective October 14th, 2020.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So today was, in fact, a sad day in the Town of Austin. Sarath Nair, a shining star in our Justice Court, finished his last day of work with us after several years working for the town. During the years he was working full-time in the court, Sarath was also able to pursue his true passion after hours, a career in social work. Now that Sarath has finished his schooling and secured a new job in his preferred field, which is amazing because we know how hard it is to find a new job right now, we do have to let him fly away from our nest. Thank you, Sarath, for your service to the town. You will be truly missed. All those in favor with great regret?
Aye.
Aye.
With regret.
Anybody opposed?
Promotion appointment, Town of Austin Justice Court. Resolved that the town board of the Town of Austin promotes Fernanda Lilly for the provisional to probationary position of intermediate clerk, Spanish speaking, effective October 13, 2020. And be it further resolved that Ms. Lilly's prorated annual salary remains at $46,963 for 2020.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So we have had a couple of big personnel shifts in the Justice Court this year as we promoted our part-timer Fernanda Lilly into a full-time provisional appointment in July to fill a vacancy from earlier in the year. Fernanda recently passed the civil service test with flying colors and has been an asset to the court team, so we are very excited to make her appointment more permanent tonight. I already had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Wonderful. Congratulations, Fernanda.
Okay. 1 second. Approval of 2020 cabaret license, Maya Riviera Bar and Restaurant, 518 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor. Whereas by resolution duly adopted March 10th, 2020, the town board under authority pursuant to Chapter 68 of the Town Code, Section 6820B, granted Maya Riviera Bar and Restaurant, the applicant, a 3-month provisional cabaret license for extended hours during which the applicant can play amplified music on Sundays through Thursdays from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And whereas the town board intended to revisit this approval after 3 months in May 2020 to assess if there were any negative impacts from the extended hours, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the related closures to and operational restrictions on restaurant establishments, the town board extended the provisional cabaret license until October 27, 2020, and directed a public hearing to be held on the provisional license on October 13, 2020. And whereas the town board held a public hearing at its regular meeting on October 13, 2020, via video conferencing in accordance with the governor's executive orders 202.1 and 202.13, and subsequently extended, and members of the public having an opportunity to be heard, the public hearing was closed on October 13, 2020. And now therefore, be it resolved, the town board of the town of Austin hereby grants the applicant a cabaret license for the calendar year of 2020 in accordance with the provisions of its March 10, 2020 resolution. And be it further resolved, this cabaret license is only for the 2020 calendar year and is granted under unique circumstances where restaurants are not allowed to operate at full capacity. And accordingly, the town board reserves the right to modify, add to, and/or eliminate any of all the terms and conditions of the cabaret license when considering the applicant's application for a cabaret license renewal for the 2021 calendar year in accordance with Chapter 68 of the Town Code.
I got thirsty just listening to you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Great. I feel like it's a final but provisional. I'm just saying it's like final but provisional law. That's what it is. So it's still pending, but hopefully everything's going to be good, and we haven't heard anything bad about that. So we're very happy and happy to be promoting our businesses. Go ahead. Sorry, Martha.
It's okay. Fee proposal and rem proceedings for taxes. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin accepts the fee proposals of Toulis and Gager LLP dated September 30th, 2020 for the preparation and rem proceedings for taxes for 2020 at a fee of $2,800 to cover the preparation and service of the notice of foreclosure and associated costs. And to be further resolved, any costs beyond the base fee of $2,800 will be billed at a rate of $300 per hour for Mr. Mark Toulis and $85 per hour for paralegal, and the town will be reimbursed for such expenses as part of the foreclosure process.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So we've worked with Mark Toulis for many, many years, and we are happy to accept his fee proposal for 2020. Yes, at the same rate as last year. We know our receiver, Holly Perlowitz, greatly appreciates his expert assistance during foreclosure processes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Thanks.
Intermunicipal agreement, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation grant for recycling app. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin authorizes the supervisor to sign the renewal of an intermunicipal agreement for calendar year 2021 with the village of Tarrytown and the following municipalities: City of New Rochelle, Town of Greenburgh, Town of Harrison, Town of Austining, Village of Bronxville, Village of Elmsford, Village of Hastings-on-Hudson, Village of Irvington, Village of Mamaroneck, Village of Pelham, and Village of Tuckahoe for the purpose of receiving grant funding from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation for a shared recycling app with the Village of Tarrytown as the lead entity for the grant funding, subject to approval by council to the town as to form.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So as the resolution states, this IMA is a renewal from last year so that the town can continue to receive reduced rates for recollect or recycling app as a result of a shared grant with the Village of Tarrytown as the lead and many other municipal partners. This program, which is was brought to us by Zero Waste program through Sustainable Westchester again. And it's truly a win-win. I hope anyone who has taken the time to explore the app and look at Recyclopedia has found it super useful in navigating garbage collection schedule in the unincorporated town and all the different options for recycling. And of course, that also includes our food scrap collection site at Cedar Lane Park. Don't forget about that too, even though it's not, again, part of this program. You can find your way around all of the different types of recycling in Westchester County through Recollect and the Recyclopedia. So we're happy to be getting it at a discounted price through a grant, and thank you to Village of Tarrytown for taking the lead. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Okay. Electric service agreement, Constellation New Energy Incorporated. Whereas the town of Austin signed a memorandum of understanding with Sustainable Westchester to participate in the Westchester Power Community Choice Aggregation Program commencing January 1st, 2021. And whereas Sustainable Westchester, as administrators of the Westchester Power Program, sought electric service billing rates through a competitive bidding process with Constellation New Energy Incorporated as the winning bidder. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Austin authorizes the supervisor to sign an electric service agreement, ESA, with Constellation New Energy Incorporated and Sustainable Westchester to offer town residents electric rates set forth in Exhibit A of the ESA commencing as of the participating consumer's first meter read date after December 31st, 2020, and continuing until the participating consumer's first meter reading date after June 30th, 2022, as part of the Westchester Power Community Choice Aggregation Program, subject to approval by council to the town as to form.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So thank you again to Sustainable Westchester for administering this important program for municipalities through your Westchester Power Program. We're excited to be able to offer our residents reduced rates for electricity that is also 100% renewable, reduced from last contract. So looking forward to another 18 months of reduced rates and demand that is 100% renewable energy, demand for 100% renewable energy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Awesome.
Okay. Call for public hearing, local law number 4 of 2020, to amend chapter 136 of the town code to allow eating and drinking establishments that are issued a temporary outdoor dining permit to have tents and heaters. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing in the matter of local law number 4 of 2020 to be held at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 27th, 2020, and be it further resolved that pursuant to the governor's executive orders 2.1 and 2.15 and subsequently extended, this public hearing will be held via video conferencing only, with the information to participate in the public hearing to be duly noticed and circulated in accordance with the requirements of noticing public hearings.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
So as we get into the colder season, we're starting to see that our restaurants would attract more customers if they were actually allowed to use tents and with sides and heaters, and it would help them extend their indoor space. The town board would like to consider incorporating this into our recently adopted local law with guidance from our building inspector. We will open the public hearing at our next legislative session to get the ball rolling, and I anticipate that our building inspector will also be available that evening on our Zoom call. All those, I'm sorry, I had a motion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right.
Moving on to monthly reports, resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of September 2020: Dale Cemetery, GE Helicopter, Town Building Department, Town Highway, Tax Receiver's Office, Town Clerk's Office, and Town Supervisor.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Moving on to correspondence to be received and filed, resolved that the town board of the town of Austin hereby accepts the following correspondence: resolution of architecture review board approval, Cliff Netto, 53 Ganon Drive, town planning board minutes, August 19th, 2020, and town planning board minutes, September 2nd, 2020.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. With that, I open it up to a visitor recognition on any item whatsoever. Is there anybody here to address the board? Seeing nobody. Sorry I didn't wait, but there's nobody here that I think is not part of our group here. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating in our public hearings and our legislative session. And if I could have a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel, advice of counsel, and contracts.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So we'll be back next Tuesday, October 20th for a work session meeting via Zoom. We will be welcoming Westchester County Planning Commissioner Norma Drummond to discuss the state of housing in the county at our next meeting, and you're not going to want to miss it. The Zoom links to watch our board meetings are posted each Friday with the password and meeting ID. As a reminder, you can always view past board meetings on the Town of Austin YouTube page or our Facebook page. Have a wonderful night, everyone. If you didn't sign up to become an organ donor, you still have time. Thanks and have a great night. Bye.